Just a fun, easygoing guy. He'd always make you laugh. He was just really goofy, you know, in his own weird way.
And then one of his dreams, actually, before he chose law enforcement, he mentioned that he wanted to be a doctor. So, you know, I was pretty proud of him. And this is Bailey with Pop-Tart riding around in the back seat. Pop-Tart, his dog, loves to go for a drive.
On a January night in 2015, Bailey died from a fentanyl overdose by swallowing a pill U.S. officials say was made in China.
And so I pulled him off the couch and I started giving him CPR, and at that point, you know, I told one of the other friends that I was with to call 911. And paramedics showed up and they pronounced him dead.
I don't even honestly remember learning more about it. It was just kind of a week of a shock. It's like you just shut down, so.
Fentanyl is taking the opioid epidemic. This country's opioid crisis. Record amount of fentanyl.
Bailey's case is not isolated. As Chinese factories churn out tens of thousands of pills, drug overdose deaths in America have tripled since 1999, reaching a total of nearly 64,000 in 2016.
175 people are dying per day, which for someone who comes from where I come from, the most powerful analogy is that this means that we have a September 11th every 2.5 weeks.
More and more of those deaths are in America's heartland.
And in North Dakota, it hits home a lot faster because everybody knows everybody. And if somebody dies 200 miles away, probably half the town of Grand Forks knows the family. So I think that this crisis has really hit home in North Dakota.
How Bailey got the pills that killed him is a tale with an element of international intrigue. Drug trafficking authorities say Chinese opioid makers are the world's biggest source of fentanyl.
If we catch somebody in possession of it, we don't stop there. We try and work it as far up the chain as possible. Sometimes it even goes to other countries or overseas.
U.S. prosecutors say that trial led to a Chinese manufacturer which supplied the deadly dose to Bailey.
For the first time, we have indicted major Chinese fentanyl traffickers who've been using the internet to transport fentanyl and fentanyl analogs to drug traffickers and to individual customers in the United States.
That, U.S. officials say, is considered an attack by a foreign force.
We also need to make very clear to the Chinese that this is an act of war. You are sending this into our country to kill our people.
But Chinese officials say American drug habits are to blame.
但是这一态势的情况，包括数据比例，我们确实在没有情报和证据来支持它是一个什么样的情况。
In Grand Forks, the threat from foreign opioid factories is rising.
4 years ago, for the first time in history, we had more opiate deaths, overdose deaths, than we had traffic fatalities.
Fentanyl is a game changer. It really has changed the trajectory of harm that has occurred.
Bailey's best friend Kane started dealing drugs to support his own habits.
It's hard to not feel responsible. I do believe like I'm part of the reason he got into it. You know, I mean, he lived with me at the time, and if I hadn't been doing it, I don't think he would have been doing it.
Hard hit by the opioid crisis, the Grand Forks mayor's office started a call to action movement to bring the community together to fight substance abuse.
Because of these deaths are so mind-numbing, so shocking. It's like cold water in your face. It just shocks everybody, and we say we cannot have this in our community.
North Dakota lawmakers approved changes to the state law in early 2017, allowing easy reporting of drug overdoses.
That as long as those other people present follow certain steps, they can notify law enforcement and not be prosecuted.
The city has also started opioid take-back programs.
And every so often, when the box fills up, it'll get emptied out and the drugs are disposed of. So it's just like a postal box where they open that up, drop the drugs in there, close it up,
And no question asked.
Yep.
Yeah. Bailey's death unveiled a smuggling ring, leading prosecutors to bring 24 people to trial. While Chinese suspects remain at large, Jason and Laura Henke keep their son's memory alive.
I've had a lot of people ask where Bailey was or is buried, and I'm just like, well, he's not. So I always just